In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to set up a Premiere Pro project, import all your files, and get started inside the software. Let's dive in. So before you even create a Premiere Pro project, I recommend setting up a root folder that contains all the assets that you're going to be using for your Premiere Pro project. For example, here in my Finder window, I have this Media Pool Assets folder. This contains all the assets that I want to edit with, including logos, video recordings, audio recordings. So essentially all these assets I want to end up using in my project. And what I recommend doing is creating a root folder, because the big thing when creating a new Premiere Pro project is that you'll have to have somewhere to save your project. And so creating a root folder and then maybe a subfolder called projects is a good way to organize your files. So for example, here I have this projects folder, so I'm going to right click and just make a new folder. I'm going to name it today's date. You can name it the name of your project and then just click off here. I'm going to move all the assets that I want to use in my project into this folder. But then I'm also going to create another folder in here called project files. This is where I plan to save my Premiere Pro project. Now that we have our root folder established with our Media Pool assets, we're ready to start creating a new Premiere Pro project. Now these Media Pool assets are actually part of my online course. If you're new to Premiere Pro, I do highly recommend that you do check that out, especially if you're starting out in the software. It's a comprehensive way to learn the software from start to finish. I will leave it linked in the video description if you do want to check that out. But for now, let's see how we can create a new Premiere Pro project and import these assets into it. So next what I'm going to do is navigate to Premiere Pro. When you open up the software, you should see a welcome screen like this. Where you want to go is up to this new project button at the top left. When you click on it, you'll see that we have a new project dialog box up here. We can name our project. In this case, I like to name it the same name as my root folder. So I'm going to go back to my root folder here, just click once, copy the name of it, go back into this dialog box and paste it in there. Next, we have location, so we can click on this drop down and click choose location. Then from here, we can navigate to our root folder. So I'm just going to navigate to the root folder that we created. If you remember, we created this project files folder. I'm going to click and select that. Next, you have template. Once you get going inside Premiere Pro, you can create a project template that will already have assets and a structure created for you. But for now, we're going to skip that for now. Now at the very bottom, one thing I did want to point out is that you can choose to skip the import mode. So if you want to get started right away and dive right into editing, you can click on this, make sure it's on and click create. Otherwise, when it's off, you'll be brought into the import mode. And that's what I wanted to show you inside this tutorial. So with it unselected, I'm going to click create. And now we're here inside the import mode of Premiere Pro. So Premiere Pro is broken into 3 modes: import mode, edit mode, and export mode. So inside import mode, this is where you can kind of gather all your assets and get them ready to import and edit inside your project. In edit mode, that's where the main event happens. That's where you edit all your footage together and create your final video. And then of course, export mode is where you go to export and share that video. And to access these different modes, you can access them at the top left here. You can see right now we're inside import mode. Next is edit and export. But for now, we have to go and find our assets that we want to import inside our project. So essentially what we're looking at here is essentially a media browser. You can kind of think of it as like a folder with different locations here, and we can navigate on our hard drive where we have our stored assets that we'd like to import inside our Premiere Pro project. For example, if you're working on a Macintosh, you can click on this. This brings up your folders here. Or if you know that you're working directly on the desktop, you have these little local selections here where I can easily click on desktop, bring up my projects folder. I can double click on it to go into it. Once again, double click on the root folder, and then I can just select this Media Pool assets. And you can see once I select a folder or an asset, it's added to this bottom bar called the tray. And this is essentially, if you can think of it like cafeteria lunchtime, you're adding things to your plate so that you can eat lunch, or essentially edit a project inside Premiere Pro. Now you not only can add folders here, but just to show you, I'm going to unselect this for now, and I'm going to double click and go into podcast assets. Let's say if I wanted to select just a few of these items, you can select one at a time. So you can select one, you can select this one here, and you can see you can select individual elements if you wanted to actually go in and just select a few at a time. But for now, what I'm going to do is unselect these two. I want to import the whole Media Pool folder. So I'm going to go back out and check on Media Pool here. Now, if you want to add this root folder as a favorited area, you can click on the star button. So you can favorite this location by clicking on the star, and you can see that it's brought up to the top left. This can be very helpful, maybe for the projects folder, to start that. That way you can see all of your projects inside this area, and it makes navigating the import mode a lot quicker and easier. Now you have a few different control settings on how you can view these folders and assets. You can choose to change the size at the top right. You can choose to change it to list view, and this will list out the different assets that you're seeing inside the window. You can also search for assets inside the search bar. You can also filter by different types. So if you're looking for videos only, audio only, or images, you can choose to filter your options that way. Now you do have some options to the right-hand side before you actually import the assets inside Premiere Pro. You first have the Organize Media tab. You can choose to create a new bin. So essentially what a bin is inside Premiere Pro is it's a folder within the project. You can name your bin. So if you wanted to name a new bin, you can create one there. So if you wanted to create a new bin, that's where you can do that. For now, I'm gonna skip that for now. So I'm gonna uncheck that. You can choose to have Premiere Pro copy your media for you. So if you wanted to make a copy and choose where to save it, you can do that here. You can create a new sequence here as well. I tend not to do this in this area because the options are a little limiting, but if you want to get started right away, this could be a good option for you. But for now, I'm gonna uncheck that. Then you have automatic transcription. So if you want Premiere Pro to automatically transcribe your audio and video clips, you can turn this on and it will transcribe them in the background. This can be very helpful, especially when you want to dive into text-based editing and start editing via script and spoken language. This is a good option to turn on. You can choose your language, you can choose to enable language auto detection, and then you have preferences here. So when you click on this dropdown, you can choose to have Premiere Pro only transcribe the clips in your sequence, or you can also choose to have it auto transcribe all imported clips. I tend to use clips in the sequence, that way it only transcribes what I'm actually adding in my timeline. And then lastly, you have media analysis. This just allows Premiere Pro to analyze your imported video and images so that you can utilize the search panel, which uses AI to automatically search assets that you import inside the project, which can be very helpful. But once you have your preferred settings selected, you can choose import. Now, depending on the assets that you're importing inside Premiere Pro, you might see this dialog box. For example, one asset that I'm importing is a Photoshop file. And I have a few different ways that I can import a Photoshop file inside Premiere Pro. By default, I like using merge all layers, so I'm going to select that and click OK. But once that's done, you can see inside the project panel here, we have all our imported assets inside Premiere Pro. Now, if you forgot to import something, no worries. You can always import more assets by going up to File, Import. Now the next step into video editing is to create your sequence that you're going to edit in. If you want to see the most optimal sequence settings to choose, I highly recommend checking out this video that I did recently. Feel free to go check that video out up there if you're interested. But that does it for this video. We'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.